I thought it would be easier for me to actually show you in a video how to do this than to just snap a few pictures and send it to you. So I will try not to make this an extremely long video. I will edit it. Just bear with me. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so it's a learning experience for me. So in order to make the face masks that I make, what you need is, first you have to take your fabric and you need to wash it. And you need cotton, whatever you use for like quilts and the like, that works perfectly. And then I use flannel for the inside, but you don't have to do that. You can use 2 pieces of cotton fabric. Just make sure that you use 2 different kinds of fabric so that you know which side you're supposed to put against your face. You don't want to be switching it back and forth if you happen to take the mask off and then you have to put it back on. That's why I like the flannel, because it's soft and it's a different kind of material, so there's no confusion on that. You need a 1/4-inch elastic. So I could not get any. What I have is 1/2-inch elastic, and then I just cut it. This is take 2, so let's start this part over. You're going to need 2 coffee filters if you make it the way I am. If not, then do your research online. There are different kinds of interfacing that can work very well. Some interfacings do not work. You don't want anything that has any kind of a loft to it. Nothing fuzzy or too thick. Somewhere on YouTube, and I'll see if I can find the link to it, there was a comparison of different kinds of interfacing and what works and what should not be used. I have no pipe cleaners. If you have pipe cleaners, then good for you, because that's what I wish I had. But I have floral wire, and I use that to cut a piece for going over the nose to help the mask stay in place. I use clips and some pins. So the first thing that I do, after I wash my fabric, I cut it 9 by 6 and then set that aside. And I take my coffee filters that have been ironed and I lay them down, evening them up on the bottom and on the side so that they are 12 inches. It's 12 inches from one side to the other, and they're lined up at the bottom. So you can see it's like that. Then I pin it top and bottom. And then I'm going to take a ruler, and right where those junctures are, where they come together, I draw a line. That's going to be my sewing line. Okay, so for my elastic, not that you can't figure out how to do it on your own, but I'll show you anyways. A little couple of tips. If you have elastic like mine, that is the thank you, Bella. If you have elastic like mine, all you have to do is mark it at a 1/4 inch and then cut along that channel all the way up. The elastic being cut works perfectly well. It's perfectly functional. I will tell you though that after it's been washed, it does get a little bit wonky looking, but it doesn't hamper the way it works. So once I do that, then I'm going to take the elastic and I'm going to give it a little tug, because what's going to happen is the extra pieces of rubber that's in there, the elastic that's in there, are going to pop out, and you just want to take those and throw them away. And do that on the other side too. So you can see it pulls right off. Okay, so those are all set. Put those aside. Alright, then I'm taking my wire, pipe cleaner if you have it, and cut it at 3 inches. I don't know where I came up with that. It's just kind of an arbitrary measurement that I thought would work. So there, I cut it at 3 inches. And then, because the ends are going to be pokey, you want to curl them around on themselves so that nothing sharp can poke out. And you want to try and make sure that the curls go the same direction. I mean, so they're horizontal with each other. And then because I'm the control freak that I am, I then have to flatten this out because like it's not gonna end up all squished up inside your mask anyways, but you know, that's just the way I roll. I know you're all shocked that I'm a control freak. Too bad I'm not such a control freak that I keep my house spotless. But it is what it is. So there. I'm going to put my tool back away. You can see I've got a bunch of them here already prepared. I've been making masks assembly line, so it's a lot easier if you have you do each process for however many you're going to be making. And I'm going to make them until I run out of elastic. So there's that. What I'm going to do now is I am going to be right back. I have to get my sewing machine. I gotta say, my respect for people who do this crap for a living on YouTube has gone way up because it's a pain in the ass. Just saying. So, anyways, I'm using my walking foot on my sewing machine. If you don't have one, you don't have to have it. You don't have to use it. It does just make it a little bit easier when you are sewing over all those different elements. So, easy peasy. Gonna just sew over that line. I can find, there's my pin. You don't have to worry about doing any back stitching or anything like that. It's all good. Okay. Now, let me get my cutting mat out. We need to cut this to be 6 by 9. Now, you're going to take your flannel or your other cotton fabric, and you're going to lay that down face up. And you're going to take your other fabric and you're going to lay it down face down. Now with this, what I do is I take and I fold this over. And the reason why I do that, and it probably doesn't really matter, but the reason why I do it is because in my mind, we've created these little holes with this seam. And to me, that's an avenue for something to get through. So in order to reduce that, what I do is I fold it over so that that seam is then protected. Again, I don't know whether that actually, is something that needs to be done, but it's what I do. So then I put the filter on top. Now if you have interfacing, if it's sew in, you'll do it like this. If it's fusible, you'll fuse it to I would say, to your regular cotton. So then I just put a little clip top and bottom. You can use pins. I love these little clips. They're amazing. Then you're going to take your elastic and you're going to fold back the coffee filter and one piece of your fabric. And then you're going to put it right to the corner like that. I hope you can see that well enough. Fold that back over and clip it. And then you have to open up this side. Bring this edge over. Same thing. Bring it right to the corner like that. It's kind of like push it back out of the way. And clip it. Then do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so now we're going to be sewing this whole thing together, but you have to, instead of sewing 100% all the way around, you have to leave an opening for turning. So I leave, I don't know, so I guess it's about 2.5 inches. So between 2 and 3 inches, I just use my hand and I just make a little mark. So I know not to sew in between there, because that's where we're going to turn it right side out. Okay, so you're going to start it at approximately that line. I'm doing about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm holding that elastic in place. I'm pulling the clip off, because obviously I can't sew on the clip. So then you're going to start sewing. You're going to back stitch at both the start and the finish, assuming my sewing machine will work. Okay. I sew right off, but first back stitch over top of your elastic. I just find it easier just to sew off the end, and then I will back stitch again over the elastic. So you're locking the elastic in place really well by back stitching on both seams. Now you can see I came to that line that I had marked, so I knew I should stop there. Can't tell you how many times before I started marking my lines that I would just sew right all the way around. Okay, you don't have to clip the corners or anything. You just open that up. I like to reach into the farthest corner. I got my thumb in there. And you just flip it around and start threading it through there. You don't want to pull on this part because you don't want to rip this. But as long as you're careful, all you have to do is, I kind of just go around. Like you probably already know what you're doing, but whatever. I just kind of like turn it as I go, and I found that then I have really good luck with not damaging the interior piece. Now, when it gets to this point, just grab a hold of the elastic, and it'll pull it out. Just kind of smooth out the seams, finger press that down. And then you're going to turn in that little extra that's right there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Who cares? Nobody's going to notice it anyways. And then I'm going to put a little clip on it. I'm going to take this to the iron and I'll be right back. So I just pressed it down so that, it's all nice and flat. It's not perfect. It's fine. It doesn't matter. So next what I did was I cut myself a template. If you're only making one mask or a couple of masks, you don't really need to do this, but I was making some assembly line. It just made my life a whole lot easier. So I cut it 3 inches, which was the size that I had cut the wire, and then I marked it at the 1.5 inch mark. And then I switched to a different mask because I already have one of these already. So then what I did was I flipped it over, and making sure you know where the opening is, put that opening away from you. And I laid it out on a grid so that I could this way, see where I was at. So I centered it, find the center, put that 1.5 inch mark on there, and then took a pencil and I marked it on either side. What we're doing there is we are creating a little space for the wire to sit so that it's not going to go flopping around. We're going to do little seams here, and if we didn't do that and all we did was do the top stitching, the wire could actually travel from one end to the other. This is to keep it locked in place so that it will be where the nose is. So bring the sewing machine back, and literally I'm just going to do forward and back, and I'm going to make sure I come down about 1/4 of an inch, and that's it. You're going to do that on both sides. I don't even cut my thread, I just slide it across. And that's it for that. Then you cut your threads. Okay, now we're going to take one of the wires and we're going to thread it up through your opening. You see the opening there? All the way up to that spot. And then I just kind of wiggle it up in there into the seam allowance. And if you have to bend it a little to get it in the right spot, it's not a big deal. I like to clip it just so it doesn't shift on me while I'm sewing. And then you're going to sew about 1/4 inch seam along the top. I like to give it a generous 1/4 of an inch, maybe even 1/2 an inch, just to be on the safe side. You don't want to hit the wire. And I'm holding the wire up in there as far as I can while I'm doing that. Get the back stitch, front and back, start and finish, whatever. So what you're going to do is you're going to sew this at somewhere between really about 1/8 of an inch. You want to do about 1/8 of an inch top stitching across the bottom of your piece. Don't forget to back stitch. You just got to make sure that you're actually going to catch these pieces, otherwise it'll be an opening. And there we go. It's all nicely sewn together. Get rid of the strings. We're getting there. All right, now what we're going to do, since we have those top and bottom seams done, we're going to put it so that the nose piece is facing you. And you're going to kind of fold this. It's almost a roll and fold. And you're tucking this part in. So what we're doing is we're making a pleat. I just give it a little bit of a finger pressing, and then I clip it. Now you can do the same thing at the bottom. You're going to kind of do you're making like a hill, and then you're popping it over. You can kind of see, it's a little more than 1/4 of an inch. You clip that or pin it. And then you're going to take the center, and you're going to make sure that these are going the same way, and they have to go away from the nose piece. That's why I have you start it near you and working away. You're just going to kind of create a backwards Z. So it's folded, and then you clip it, and then this way it forms a Z. And clip it. Now I just kind of like to even these out. This step's not necessary at all, but I like to iron it just because I think it makes it a little more manageable. So I just like to press it a little bit, just to help hold the shape. But I would recommend that if you're giving them to anyone, that you recommend that they wash them. My best friend washes hers in the dishwasher. She just puts them on the top rack around the rungs and good to go, and they come out nicely. If you wash them in the washing machine, hang them to dry. If you do put them in the dryer, they're going to come out all scrunched up, and then you're going to have to smooth them all out and iron them. So it's just easier to hang them up or do it in the dishwasher. So that's what it looks like. You see your pleats in there. I'm taking all the clips off while I'm holding those pleats in place. And first I sew it at 1/2 inch. And then you're going to do a second seam, approximately 1/4 inch from the edge. So you'll have a narrow one and the wider one. I always do the wider one first just because it makes it easier and it holds it in place. So you can see there. And then you just repeat it on the other side. Well, there we go. I really hope this video worked out well, because I don't really want to redo it. But there we have a nice completed mask with a nose piece. So, hope everybody stays safe. Love yas.